right, go ahead. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Shireen. You know, I find myself rather interestingly placed between friends who all have affiliations with political parties. I don't, and you've, in a sense, called me here to represent the point of industry. Well, it's not easy to represent the point of view of industry as a whole, but let me see if I can do justice to that. I think, going back, industry was happy with UPA 1, in as much of the country was and voted the UPA, Congress and the UPA back to power. But industry has been and is unhappy with UPA 2. Mm-hmm. One can't deny that. That's the prevalent mood. The question really is, there are so many issues that if I were to summarize, what really is the overriding factor with which you can encapsulate the negativism of industry vis-a-vis UPA 2, I would use 4 alphabets for it, which I have used earlier, which is DPLS, decision, paralysis, led, slowdown. This encapsulates broadly everything that has happened vis-a-vis industry and has led to negativism from industry. Now, what is DPLS? How has it impacted? Very broadly, the peak growth that we saw at 9% GDP was broadly, very simply, broken into 4.5% of consumption-driven growth and 4.5% of investment-driven growth. Now, consumption-driven growth has its own drivers, which is many steps removed from the investment moods. But what happened to the 4.5%, which was investment-led growth, just crashed. Now, that's the truth, and all kinds of economic figures will point towards it. So I'm just summarizing it by saying that decision paralysis led slowdown in UPA 2 is something which is a fact of life. The fact that investment-led growth collapsed is a fact of life, and therefore industry is not. Certainly, it would be wrong on my part to stand here representing industry's point of view and say we were overjoyed with UPA. We're not overjoyed at all. In fact, we are pretty negative on the performance of UPA 2 in this sphere. Now, the real issue in this debate, Shireen, is looking back, it is easy. All of us in this room and all my esteemed panelists, we have hundreds of sticks to beat the UPA with. You know them, we know them. The question is, do you want me to read out those 40 or 50 sticks with which to beat the UPA? And I'm going to do something else. I asked myself, driving into this discussion, if I were to, 4 or 5 years later, if I were to look back and ask myself, what were the positives that I remember? And I will just read out the 6 positives in whatever balance time I have left. I think the UPA government did well on infrastructure investments. I have a selective perception, so please pardon me that, because that's the sector I earn my living. If you see the 11th plan figures, the UPA government achieved 93% of the infrastructure target, which was considered ambitious. 500 billion was considered ambitious, and we did 93% of that. That's something in life in this period that I will take back as a positive. And many sectors did very well. Roads did 115%, power did 93%, and this is bang in the middle of UPA 2, with take off from UPA 1 also. The second point is, I think on the power distribution front, it pushed together a very bold package for distribution reform. It certainly pushed the PPA agenda hard. Mm-hmm. There have been problems, there have been warts, there have been all kinds of accusations, but it pushed the PPA agenda hard. I will remember in this period a positive of the Prime Minister himself and the UPA pushing the nuclear agenda, with all its ramifications, in terms of getting Indian power sector to rely a little more on the nuclear agenda. I am personally, and I know that the rest of industry doesn't broadly agree with me, but I am personally have sufficient and reasonable appreciation for the process in which the Land Acquisition Act was crafted, was discussed, and then finally passed. So Land Acquisition Act remains in my mind as a positive of this period. And finally, at the late stage, I think they should have woken up earlier, but at the late stage, it did put together a fighting institutional response to clear logjam projects through the intervention of the Cabinet Committee on Investments and the National, the Project Monitoring Group, which many states are emulating today. So this broadly is my summary, saying I cannot deny the fact that industry is upset with UPA 2. No, that's 6 if you want me to read them out again.
No. Infrastructure, roads, power distribution, PPA.
Infrastructure, DISCOM restructuring, PPP agenda, nuclear agenda, land acquisition, CCI. That's 6.
All right.
That's 6, right? 6. So in summary, if you were to summarize, industry unhappy. Why is industry unhappy? Single banner shall I say, the banner statement, DPLS, decision paralysis linked slowdown, the killing of investment-led growth. But as an individual, trying to ask myself a challenging question, what are the 6 positives I can think about in this period that the UPA government did? I just read them out for you.
Salman Sood is going to be very happy with you, Vinayak Chatterjee. Vinayak Chatterjee, big round of applause there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming back to you now for a rebuttal. You've heard what the other panelists have had to say. Salman Sood, before I get started with the Q&A, your rebuttal, 2 minutes.
Okay.
If you can use the microphone, that'll be better.
And I got extra time.
Yeah.
You did, because we interrupted.
I was going to rattle off these numbers as well, but I want to ask you people one thing. Do we want all Indians to progress together or not? I think nobody in this room can disagree with that. But I want to take issue with what Piyushji said about job creation. And let me tell you why NDA lost. And they should remember that. And Mama, yes, Mama, we are in touch with what's happening on the ground. And let me tell you why UPA 2 has evolved the way it has. Between 2000 and 2005, this is an interesting story because not many people know what happened to the NDA. What happened to India Shining? Between 2000 and 2005, 2 crore men left rural India because of distress. 2 crore, they talk about 5-6 crore jobs. Let me tell you what the jobs were. The quality of jobs is important. 2 crore men left rural India because they could not make ends meet. The situation was so bad that women, elderly people, and young children had to get into the job market. They joined the workforce, and that's how you got 2 crore extra jobs during NDA's time. They lost. What happened when the UPA came in? Narega came in, a wage floor was put in place, men started moving back from their semi-urban areas back, and by the way, these are facts. Men started moving back. Women felt they could move out of the labor force. Children, because of heavy investment in our education sector and health sector, they started staying in school. Gross enrollment ratios in primary, middle, secondary schools are the highest this country has ever known. That means children are staying longer in schools. That's a good thing. If you have a gap in jobs, it's not a bad thing because these kids are learning. They're gaining skills. So, their job story, their job story is incomplete. On this whole notion of confidence. Oh, by the way, sorry, Aadhaar. Aadhaar is going to be an amazing thing for this country. Despite this recent setback on DBTs and LPG, it's going to be one of the biggest things this country has ever known. It's going to cut down on the leakages that Jay talked about. 60 crore people now have Aadhaar. 30 more crore people are going to be enrolled in 4 more states. Aadhaar is going to be extended to 90 crore people in this country. It's going to be a huge thing. On confidence, Paul Krugman, the famous US economist, talks about confidence fairies that Jay seems to believe in. This whole business of if there is confidence and everything is going to be okay. The fact of the matter is, your colleagues in other countries and you people are going to benefit from the India story. Why? Countries like China, where manufacturing is in a slump, those manufacturing positions are going to be opening up in this country, and people are already taking advantage of that.